We get live inside the Cash Physical Therapy headquarters Facebook community where we've been going live every single week for the last 5 years, where we've documented every single step of the journey in building Ben's practice to the point where it's now generated more than $10 million in cash package sales, where it's now doing $2 million per year. So if you're looking for weekly content, what's working right now, go and join the Cash Physical Therapy headquarters Facebook community or follow us on YouTube. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Cash Physical Therapy headquarters podcast. Today, we're going to be covering the number one thing that is killing cash package sales and, of course, how to fix it. Good morning, Ben. What's happening, dude?
Morning. I'm excited for this one because I know it's something that a lot of people struggle with in-person sales, and they think it's actually in-person sales that they need to get better at, and it's actually not always the case. So
something else entirely. So if you're here and you get value out of this podcast, make sure that you like and you subscribe for more weekly content on what's working right now to grow and scale cash physical therapy practices. So as Ben alluded to, today we're going to be talking about the primary thing that is crushing practice owners' hopes and dreams of being able to convert cash packages at 80 to 90%, which Ben and I know for a fact is very, very possible. We not only see it every single day inside of ProKinetics, Ben's practice, but we see it happen every single day with the hundreds and hundreds of clients that we're teaching our seven-figure practice systems to. And one thing that is abundantly clear is that no magic sales script, no magic evaluation process is going to give you that 80 to 90% conversion rate. A lot of people are changing the way that they conduct their evaluations, changing how they recommend their treatment packages, using pricing sheets, using conviction, and just like telling them what it is that they need, but they're still not seeing the conversion rates that they're hoping for. And so if that's you, just know that this is going to be an incredibly valuable episode for you. So Ben, you want to tell them what the real number one killer of cash package sales is?
Yeah, so the number one killer is the first phone call. People are coming in much colder than they should be coming into that evaluation, and that's what's leading to more friction and issues during the in-person sales. And it can be really frustrating when you're getting objections during the in-person, and it's logical thinking is like, oh, it's something that I'm doing or not doing in the during the evaluation. Yeah. And it's actually sometimes it can be that, but vast majority of times it's actually due to the phone call not going the way that it should and positioning it that way as it should.
Yeah. 100%. People are showing up to their evaluation with the wrong expectations in place and already having a premeditated plan for how that evaluation is going to go. A lot of folks who are showing up to their evaluations are showing up with the intention of only coming in for one visit. And once they make that decision, before they actually show up, no matter how good of a job you do during the evaluation, it's going to be really hard to get them to convert. That's when you're going to get a lot of spouse objections. That's when you're going to get a lot of I need to think about it based objections, or I need to talk to my physician based objections, because we didn't properly set expectations and pre-frame the thing that they actually need to get the result that they truly want. And so a lot of you are solving for the wrong problem inside of your practice, and it's forcing you to think that you need to become this sales expert, when most of you, you're not salespeople. You don't want to be salespeople. You just want to help people. And so the discovery call is really where we need to focus the majority of our cash package optimization efforts. And we know this after coaching more than 500 cash physical therapists on our sales system to be 100% true. Because if we can tee up the right expectations during the discovery call, if we can truly qualify this individual that they are a good fit, so that we can give them a recommendation and tell them what treatment's going to look like with conviction in our tonality and in the way that we're asking questions, then people are going to show up for that evaluation within a completely different frame of mind, with so much less sales pressure, because they've had between the time they scheduled with you and the time to show up to think about the next steps that you teed up for them during that discovery call. And so there's actually two primary areas that we need to make sure that we're doing. Let's call it three primary things that we have to be doing on our discovery calls. Number one is we actually have to qualify the patient, or qualify the prospect. The goal is not to get them scheduled. The goal is to qualify them and to make sure that we point them in the direction that is actually in their best interest. And when we frame our discovery calls in that light, we're less afraid to ask the questions that are necessary to truly qualify them, that most people aren't willing to ask on a discovery call out of fear of losing the sale, not realizing that they're actually sabotaging themselves by not having those deeper, tougher conversations. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, Ben, you have a really powerful story about this, is we have to make sure that we are discussing our rates and pre-framing our packages on that call. Now, a lot of you are afraid to do this because you think you're going to lose the sale, but you're actually going to make a ton more impact on your patients. You're going to build way more trust, and you're going to have a much easier time converting patients into packages when you discuss what they're actually going to need to get where it is they're trying to go in terms of a general idea of how many visits they're going to need and what your rates actually are, so that they show up having already decided that that is something tolerable for them to get the result that they actually want. So Ben, you want to share your story?
Yeah. So I want to also start by saying, like, you guys might be also like, well, why should I listen to Ben and Jordan? So I want to preface by saying that I would beg to differ. I don't know if there's another clinic owner that's done more phone calls than I have, done over 1,000. And that's because they're smarter than me, in the sense of I held on to it way too long. And I don't know another clinic owner that held on to those first phone calls as long as I did, because I realized after about a year and a half of doing it, it's really the pulse and lifeline of a practice. And if that does not go well, the rest of your practice is going to be going down the drain to some extent, because it's truly the lifeline of your business. So I was really reluctant to hand it off. So I've done literally over 1,000 of these phone calls and got really, really good at them, and pretty much able to perfect that phone script and the process. And now we're able to coach hundreds of other clinics to do the same thing. And I did eventually get over the fact that I was scared to hand it off, and was able to bring somebody on, and they actually did a pretty good job. But I thought they were doing a pretty good job because people were getting scheduled. But what happened was, I had a couple of my PTs come to me like, hey, did we change anything with the phone script or anything like that? I'm like, well, obviously we had somebody new start with it. Like, well, they're just not coming in quite as warm, and they're getting a lot more cost insurance objections that are coming in. And I thought they were doing a good job because people were getting booked, right? People were on the schedule and whatnot. And I was listening to the recordings, and he was discussing price, and discussing insurance. But the little thing that he was missing out on and not doing was simply one sentence he forgot to do, or wasn't doing, or just glazed over. And that was pre-framing how many sessions typically patients need. People were coming in just wanting to kind of do like one and done type thing, more cost, more insurance objections. And it was literally one sentence that was left out in his script versus mine, and PTs were noticing it on the back end. One sentence. And it just came down to, he wasn't pre-framing how many sessions that typically patients in their situation need. All right. So very little intricate details of the phone script can really deter things downstream as well. All right. So you also need to, like you said, Jordan, you need to be pre-framing the cost of insurance. You need to be discussing that on the phone. Otherwise, you're going to be getting a lot more cost insurance objections in person, and a lot more I need to think about it.
100%. So Ben, someone who at scale across, what do you have, 7, 8 clinicians?
Yeah, we've got 6 PTs in Oakland, 1 in Des Moines, and 2 in San Diego. So 10. Yeah.
And across the board, and I look at your data almost every single day. Your PTs are converting evals into packages at or near 90%. I think the lowest you have is like 86%, which most people is a dream scenario. And when you hire this new front office admin, suddenly they went 0 for 8 on evaluations converting into packages. And so obviously at that scale, like there's something definitely wrong. And so not having that one sentence in there that recommends, it's like, hey, most people in your situation need 6 visits. Now, I'm not telling you that's exactly what you need. When you come in, your PT is going to find out what the root cause is and tell you exactly what it is you're going to need to get where you're trying to go. But just so you know, that's generally how long it's going to take to get you to what you're trying to get, where you're trying to get to. And just having that simple pre-frame has people coming in already open to the idea And let me give you an example of this, just so you can understand how powerful this actually is and how important it actually is in a scenario that has nothing to do with physical therapy. Think about, you have your laptop, and let's say it's a MacBook and it's pretty old. You're ready to trade it in, and you're going to the Apple store intending to get some sort of discount on a model that's maybe like 1 year better, and it's going to be cheaper because they're going to pay you for your existing model. And if you just show up with the intention of trading in your MacBook for a slightly newer one, but then someone tries to sell you on the newest version of MacBook that's hundreds of dollars more than you're expecting, as soon as they start talking to you about it, what happens? You have all of this sales pressure that comes up, and you start resisting it mentally immediately as a result of that. Now, let's look at it through a different lens. If our intention was to trade in our MacBook and we called into Apple and they started asking us like, okay, well, what's not working with your current computer right now? What is it that you're trying to do? Like, what do you do for work with this laptop? What are all the things that you're hoping that it does do? And they take into account that, yeah, you want to trade it in, but hey, actually, based on like everything that you're doing and the problems that you didn't really enjoy with your existing laptop, I think you're actually going to be that much better suited for our newer model of laptop that can handle what it is you're trying to do much, much easier. And you're going to be able to get through things much faster. Now, we're not going to know for sure until you come into the store, but I just wanted to let you know that based on what you're telling me, I think this is going to be a better fit for you. Now, when you show up to that Apple store, although you are intending to trade in your laptop, you've had a day, a week to think about the idea and get used to and warm up to the idea of getting a larger upgrade than you actually intended to. So when the sales rep actually starts talking to you about this newer model, you're actually actively listening, and there's not a tremendous amount of sales pressure because you've already digested it and got used to it and prepared for that pitch. And so you're much, much more likely to actually have that upgrade because you've had time to think about it. You've had time to think of the pros and cons, and you're not put in this social situation where you're trying to run all of the pros and cons in your head in the moment while someone's talking to you. Okay. When you don't have time to think about something, it makes you feel like you need to take a step back and have time to think about it. And that's what's happening with your cash package sales. They're showing up intending to just get a trade in, get some information, get something that's a little bit better than what it is that they have, and you're pitching them something much, much bigger than they anticipated. And so just by suggesting that, hey, this is basically what I think what you're likely going to need in terms of visits, you're giving them all the time and space to run through their options. And that way, when you do start talking about your recommendations, they've already had time to decide that they actually want those things. And so it becomes much more of like an order taking exchange rather than a sale, compared to them trying to digest this big idea and this big price tag that they weren't expecting. And ethically, some people are like, I don't want to make a decision in the span of the 10 minutes that we've been talking about this. I want to talk to my spouse and have a day to think about it. Okay. So after you talk about your prices and your rates, and then you let them know, it's like, hey, but if most of the time people come in with this situation, they need about 6 visits on average. And if you do commit to those 6 visits, then you do get a significant discount on that per visit rate. Does that make sense? You're giving people so much more time and leverage to decide for themselves preemptively that they want to invest in your packages. And that is the real secret to getting more cash package sales, because it takes the sales pressure off of the prospect and off of the PT, who has to be able to get someone who's never invested cash to this degree for treatment to want to do so in the span of 10 to 15 minutes when you're actually making a recommendation at the end of an evaluation. Do yourself a favor, do your prospects a favor, and have that conversation before they actually show up to that evaluation. Now, the timing in which you talk about your rates and your packages is very, very important. Ben, you want to talk about when in the first call, consultation call process, you actually talk about your rates and tee up how many visits it's going to take?
Yeah, you can essentially, when it comes to setting your rates and stuff like that, you can either match your pricing to the value you build or your value to the pricing. And so if you just come out of the gate talking about pricing, you have not built up any value for them. So you want to be able to build up as much possible value as possible before discussing rates, because up until that first 10 seconds of the phone call, they think you're just physical therapy, right? They can get physical therapy anywhere. And so by taking them through the phone script and truly learning about what they're dealing with, what their situation is, what their goals are, and then being able to position how you're that solution. That's how you build value. So you want to be doing it towards the very, very end. And also, some of you guys might be also like, well, if I wanted them to be as warm as possible before coming in, why don't I just discuss like my packages on the first phone call too? There's a balance to this. You can also overcorrect as well, all right? Because you can only, the phone call, you can build quite a bit of value, but you can, at the end of the day, you can only build so much value on that first 15, 20-minute phone call. You do need an assessment to help out with, again, building even more value. What I see people do incorrectly too is overcorrect on this, where now they get done with the evaluate or the phone call and they're like, oh, just want to let you know about our rates. Our evaluation is this. Based on what you're dealing with, I'm suspecting that you're going to need 10 to 15 sessions. The good news for you is we have a 10 pack, a 15 pack, an 8 pack. The 8 packs this, the 10 packs this, the 15 packs this, and then what we'll decide on when you come in for the evaluation what you need, right? And then you just start getting in the weeds. They're like, well, how much is 8 pack? Well, how much is a 10 pack? How much is a 15 pack? And then now all the value that you built and the trust and just rapport that you built with that person, where it was focused on value, now you've made the entire focus around pricing, and all that goes out the window. So you have to make sure that pricing doesn't become the focal point. Instead, it's the value and the life changes that you're going to be able to provide somebody. And then when they come in for that evaluation, you've got an hour with somebody, you're able to build even more value than you could during the phone call. And that's where it makes it easier to discuss those packages, and also adds to the conviction of what you're recommending, because it wasn't just a 15-minute phone call. You actually went through an assessment. They met you in person. They've got a lot more trust. And so when you tell them what they need at the end of the evaluation, it's going to be there's going to be a lot more conviction and trust built there than if you do it off of 15 or 20-minute phone calls. So make sure that you're not over course correcting there too.
Yeah. So say again exactly what it is that they should say to tee up the visits.
Yeah. So what I do is at the end, like, hey, great news. This is something we see day in and day out. We actually just got done working with Mrs. Smith or so-and-so patient 2 weeks ago. They're dealing with X, Y, and Z. They're back to X, Y, and Z. So I'm confident we can help you as well. I also want to make sure you feel like we're the right fit for you as well. And then we go over what the practice looks like and what our process look like. And then, like, does that sound like what you're looking for? I'm like, yes, that looks exactly what I'm looking for, or no. And if it's no, then we go and like, well, what do you feel is missing? Right. And then we go into like, great, awesome. And I go and get them scheduled, because I want a micro commitment from them. We don't even discuss cost or insurance before getting them on the books. And then at the end, because you're getting that micro commitment, and at the end, after they're getting them scheduled, I'm like, awesome, that's all the information I need. But most importantly, what questions do you have for me, Ms. Smith? And then I'm at the point where we built as much value as I possibly can on that phone call. I want to know what questions they have. Ideally, they're like, no, everything sounds great. They don't even ask about cost insurance. That is a perfect phone call. If you get done with the call, and you ask them, what questions do you have for me? And they say, no, I'm all good to go. I'm super excited for my session, right? That is the perfect scenario, okay? And if they just like, no, the only question they answer, I'm like, awesome, great. Also, just want to let you know, some patients have questions about cost insurance. We're technically out of network with insurance. All of our patients do have insurance. Typically, patients are reimbursed between X and Y. Our initial evaluation is only $220 or $225. Well, it's now $249. When I was doing it, it just went into natural mode. It used to be $225 when I was doing phone calls. Now we're at $249. Our initial evaluation is only $249, and then at the end of the assessment, you and your physical therapist will discuss like, hey, how many sessions are we anticipating that you're going to need? But typically, in your situation, patients only need between 6 to 10 sessions, and they're back to X, Y, and Z. And then you just be quiet, see what they say. And if they do ask about cost insurance, it's the same script.
That's right. And so key thing to take away from that is we're not talking about rates, and we're not pre-framing our packages and telling people how many visits they likely are going to need through using a patient success story until after we get them scheduled. Once we get them scheduled, we ask them, do you have any questions about how we're going to, like, what to expect during this evaluation? Then, just so you know, most of our patients have insurance, but we are technically out of network. We do give everyone a super bill to get a reimbursement of up to X and Y. And again, I'm super confident that we can get you a great result. We just worked with someone with this problem about 2 weeks ago who was here, and now they're here. And just so you're aware, that takes, it could take anywhere between 6 and 8 sessions, Mr. Smith, whatever. So we're teeing that up after they're actually scheduled so that it's already on and it's harder for them to back out on, and we can kind of address whatever issues that they might have after the fact. So that is the number one thing you can do to increase your cash package conversions without having to rely on sales tactics and gimmicky sales, because people are showing up already decided that they want the 6 visits that they talked about on the phone previously. Now, there are other things that you should be doing during your discovery call, but we just created a brand new cash physical therapy sales manuscript that breaks down every single thing that Ben and I have learned from not only growing his practice to $2 million per year, but coaching more than 500 other cash physical therapists how to install his exact systems, where they're now going from never converting cash packages to now converting at 80 to 90%. And you can get access to it beneath this video. Go and get it. If you're watching this on Facebook, just comment manuscript and we'll send it over to you as soon as we can. It is a 45-page breakdown of every single step within our sales process, from the discovery call and all of our scripts and templates to our new patient onboarding experiences, to make sure we're overcoming any fears and and any doubts that they might have after they get scheduled and between the time they show up, how we're actually conducting our evaluation to create so much momentum within each and every patient that they feel like they've gained more in 60 minutes with you than months and years of working with other clinicians. And then what we do after they convert into packages to reinforce and validate patients for making the decision to invest in their health with you in your practice. If you want to get access to that manuscript, just go beneath this video. If you're watching this on social media, on YouTube or on Facebook, just comment manuscript and we'll make sure we get that out to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Don't forget, if you got value out of this, like and subscribe to get more weekly content on what's working right now to grow and scale cash physical therapy businesses.
See you guys.